I'm Tad Flakey,
I'm Lilibet Flakey.
and this is Pointless Global News. On today's show, the torturous cheek splitter 9000 airline seat has many travelers worried about the future of aviation.
Then, a determined beaver jaywalks and resists arrest.
Next, in our continuing coverage of beaver news, it's Buc-ee's versus Mickey's in a trademark infringement case. More on that later. But first, it's a real pain in the butt. An airplane passenger was taken aback after encountering a peculiar cheek splitter sky chair with a perplexing wedge bisecting the butt cushion. "I've been on a lot of planes around the world, but this was a first," exclaimed the user while describing the torture device-esque accommodation on Reddit. They were reportedly seated next to this alleged wedgie-inducing chair while flying on an older Boeing 737. Perplexed over its function, they promptly turned to Reddit for answers. "Would anyone know the reason for this seat?" they inquired, prompting a flood of far-fetched theories from armchair air experts. "It's 2 seats now for really skinny people," quipped one, while another joked, "Oh my, I thought it was a premium seat at first." Meanwhile, others compared the bifurcated butt pad to a Sibian, a motorized sex machine that features a vibrating, rotating saddle. Sounds interesting. "It's to keep the homeless pilots from occupying the cockpit," quipped a third, referencing the hostile architecture installed on benches to prevent people from sleeping on them. One Redditor correctly observed that the divider denoted that something was broken with the seat. They're getting closer to the truth. Here we go. "Every airline has their own ways of showing a seat is inoperable," they said, before joking. This airline decided the cheek splitter 9000 was the most appropriate method. A View from the Wing contributor Gary Leff elaborated that this quirk of aviation safety, found in row 15 on domestic Boeing 737 flights operated by Japan Airlines, denotes that said chair is permanently out of service. He said that the divider is a custom seat blocker cushion that's meant to prevent people from sitting there for the foreseeable future. Why not simply remove the seat entirely? Well, Leff explained that these domestic 737 flights on row 15, it happens to be the first row of coach, so the aisle lacks a proper bulkhead in front. This creates a safety concern for anyone seated there, as there's nothing to brace against in the event of turbulence or other air hazard. Instead of removing the seat and creating the same problem for the passenger behind, airlines leave the seat, marking it off limits so it acts as a barrier. Leff explained that the butt blocker is preferable to a tape or a placard, as those warning signs could be ignored. Not to mention that it's more of a permanent cushion hassle than constantly checking, replacing tape, he declared, adding that the wedge clearly signifies a condemned seat and not deferred maintenance.
What do you want to bet? Some knucklehead has probably tried to sit in that seat regardless.
Yeah, looking at it, they said, "Oh, this looks pleasant. I think I'd like this."
I like this. The police in Redmond, Washington were called to remove a suspect obstructing traffic last week. Nothing could have prepared them for what awaited them. The suspect was recklessly jaywalking in the middle of the road with no regard for his or others' safety. He brazenly ignored orders to move away from the road, forcing the police to attempt to apprehend him. At this point, the suspect became belligerent. Body cam footage of the incident shows him attacking one of the officers. After the cops finally subdued him, they found that the suspect was unable to properly identify himself due to lacking any and all ID. Yet perhaps the most outrageous part of it all is that the police allowed the suspect to get away scot-free. They didn't arrest the suspect, issue any fines, or even give him a warning. That's because the suspect was a cranky beaver. There was one thing the cops did at the end of the event, though. They cautioned drivers to be on the lookout in case the beaver comes back. Body cam footage from the incident demonstrates the beaver's stubbornness. Even when it did briefly approach the side of a road, it soon turned back. He doesn't want to go on the sidewalk, one of the officers can be heard lamenting. With the beaver's complete disregard for spoken instructions, the police had no choice but to get physical. They soon found out that their suspect wasn't above resisting arrest by force. The body cam footage shows the rotund rodent struggling and wiggling as the police attempted to, unsuccessfully, lift it. Although it didn't bare its teeth, the beaver did resort to other forms of violence. During the incident, the beaver did deploy his tail in a brief act of resistance, slapping one officer's hands. Unfortunately, no injuries were reported. Yet it seems the beaver eventually got tired of the cops harassing it. At long last, it decided to cross the street instead of just sitting in the middle of it. The video footage shows an officer escorting the beaver across the road while stopped cars wait at the intersection. After several patient attempts and some skilled negotiations, officers finally coaxed the beaver across the roadway and into a nearby wooded area where he was last seen continuing his evening plans. As the beaver climbed onto the sidewalk and began slowly crawling towards the bushes, the cops realized they hadn't ID'd their suspect. Any attempts to do so were doomed to fail. We were told the suspect lacks both ID and a driver's license. Finally, the beaver went on its merry way and traffic could continue unabated. Despite the beaver's blatant disregard for the law and resisting law enforcement officers, he got away without even a stern talking to. I like beavers. Part of my walk takes me past like a little nature trail and a little canal, and there are actually beavers there now. Tad, I've never seen beavers in all the years we've lived in this area, and this last summer, there were beavers.
I haven't either, but if there's one life lesson I've learned, you don't mess with a cranky beaver.
No, I saw one, and I saw the evidence of all the trees he had chewed down, so I hope they'll be back this summer.
I hope so, too. I'd love to see one of them. Finally, Bu-cee's, which is a Texas-based gas station empire that's best known for billboard advertising that begins roughly 400 miles out in all directions, has filed a federal trademark infringement lawsuit against Mickey's, an Ohio gas station convenience store chain that they're suing them on the grounds that the cartoon moose looks too much like Bu-cee's cartoon beaver. The suit was filed in U.S. District Court in Northern District, Ohio, a venue that until now has been spared from adjudicating disputes between woodland creatures. The Bu-cee's logo features a wide-eyed beaver in a red baseball cap centered on a yellow circle trimmed in black. Mickey's logo features a wide-eyed moose on a red hexagon trimmed in black. Both animals look up and to the right, which Bu-cee's legal team apparently considers proprietary gaze direction. The moose is not wearing a hat. Whether that absence of a hat helps or hurts Mickey's case remains a question for scholars of animal headwear jurisprudence. Bu-cee's argues that customers encountering the two logos may perceive a connection between the brands when in fact none exists. The suit points to the 2020 rebrand from Mickey's Mart to simply Mickey's as further evidence of confusion potential, apparently on the theory that shortening a name to sound less like your competitor is actually how you sound more like your competitor. Bu-cee's also cites online consumers who have allegedly questioned whether the brands are related, though it did not specify how many people or if they were unable to operate a fuel pump unassisted. The first Bu-cee's in Ohio is slated to open near Dayton in April. The closest Mickey's location is in Belleville, nearly 2 hours away, a distance that would seem to limit the opportunity for confusion to people who are already living in Ohio, known in neighboring states as the Florida of the North. Mickey's operates 42 stores, all north of Columbus. Bu-cee's operates 54 locations, mostly in Texas, where everything is legally required to be bigger, including grievances. Mickey's had not filed a response as of late Thursday, presumably because its legal team was still processing the fact that a beaver was suing a moose in federal court. The worst part about all these details is that I have a fantastic domestic partner, Bullwinkle Rocky divorce joke that I can't use because, Rocky is a squirrel. Use your imagination. This is not Bu-cee's first expedition into expanding the legal universe of cartoon animal trademark enforcement. In November, The company sent a demand letter to Nut Huggers, an Oklahoma-based men's underwear brand, whose mascot is a cartoon squirrel holding two acorns. The squirrel, like the beaver, has oversized eyes, which Bu-cee's considers a look that it invented and now holds dominion over. Nut Huggers has requested an extension to file its answer, possibly to allow time for a zoologist to explain the difference between a beaver and a squirrel to a federal judge, and, of course, perhaps also testicles. Combined, the legal actions established that Bu-cee's is prepared to litigate against any cartoon mammal with large eyes, regardless of species, attire, or holiday affiliation. The company has not yet filed a suit against actual beavers, though experts say that they are probably closer than most people think to doing that.
Well, Ted, you know I love Bu-cee's, and I wish they would come closer to us. But it's probably good they don't, because I would probably eat too many beaver nuggets if they did.
And I'd be probably eating a pulled pork sandwich every day. That's something else they do amazingly well. Anyway, that's a wrap for another Pointless Global News. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Tad Flaky.
I'm Lilibet Flaky.
Stay pointless, my friend.